Hey everyone, welcome to my presentation. I would like to present my project results. This project is funded by Lloyd's Register Foundation and run by Educational Volunteer Foundation of Turkey, as known as TEGV. I'm responsible for designing and developing measurement tools and conducting research on the effectiveness of this program. The objective of Turkey Educational Volunteer Foundation is to provide educational programs and activities to help Turkish elementary education level children become citizens who are loyal to the basic tenets of the Turkish Republic, who are rational, prudent, self-confident, creative, pacifist, respectful of different beliefs and thoughts, and who do not discriminate based on gender, nationality, religion, or language. Based on the World Economic Forum and its Future Job Report with complex problem solving at number one and its top numbers the top 10 skills for jobs in 2020. The present study is a part of a larger project designed and run by Turkey Educational Volunteer Foundation to improve Maker's team learning outcomes for disadvantaged and underrepresented students aged 8 through 14 program. In the present study, I sought to investigate the students' perception of their problem-solving skills based on their demographic information, such as home educational resources, their sense of belonging to the program, their confidence in their performances, their views on engaging teaching. Students typically have gained most of their learning at school and at home, plus to some extent by experience outside of school. Community, school, and home environments that support each other can create extremely effective climates for learning. The maker movement deals with innovative forms of production and do-it-yourself work. The idea behind the maker movement is to create and develop new things using new tools. Besides its creative and technological impact, learning by making is an important component of problem solving and relating educational content to the real world. This study examines our 20-hour content, which is given over 10 weeks. Before closure of TEGV activity location and suspension of programming due to COVID-19, 336 students in 11 activity locations, known as design factories, were assessed. The program ran a little bit more, but just like these are the numbers of students that we could only assess and then we could present the results. 83% of the students were from the second through fourth grade students, and 56 students were from fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade students. The gender distribution was among students were equal and in general were very close within different activity locations. Students were given surveys to self-evaluate themselves, their home education resources, their sense of belonging to design factory, and their their schools, pleasure of being at the design factory, confidence in their performances, and their views on engaging teaching. Also, students were administered perceptions of problem-solving skills designed by SERA et al. Scaled at three different time periods. The Chromebox alpha was calculated as 0.91, 0.89, and 0.90 respectively for each administration. The first is at the beginning of the program, the second is in the middle of the program, the last was at the last day of the programs. This is an example of like how we evaluate the different subsection of the demographic information. For example, home education resources has three different questions asking the number of books in the home, highest level of parent education, number of home study supports. Based on their scores and then based on their percentiles, we just like define three categories for each variables. As an example for home education resources, the 25th percentile. This is the 25th percentile. This is the 75th percentile, and these are the fee resources group, some resources group, and main resources group. And we do the analysis based on these different categories. Students were scored according to their agreement to 6 statements about their sense of belonging to the design factor and school. Respectively, students with a high sense of belonging scores of at least 18 and 18 respectively for each group, and students with little sense of belonging to had a score no higher than 14 and 15 respectively. A lot of students had a sense of belonging. There is a moderate statistical significant correlation, 0.46, between students' sense of belonging to school and the design factor. The distribution of students based on their sense of belonging is similar. Students with higher sense of belonging to either their schools or design factory tend to have higher problem-solving skills. The differences between groups of student problem-solving skills are statistically significant. In line with the aim of the study to evaluate if 20-hour content had an effect on students' domains of development measured, a series of repeated measure designs with linear mixed effect model were selected as the analysis approach to integrated data available for all participants while adjusting estimates for any missing data points. Analysis of complete data with linear mixed models limits of the problem of excluding a large number of participants and is recommended as it produces less biased estimates and it avoids unnecessary loss of sample size or reduced power. With each model, main effects over time were exempt. The dependent variable was the pretest and post-test scores of student perception of their problem-solving skills in the study. The within subject factor was time, which had two levels, pre-test and post-test. Each participant was treated as a random variable. Data were cleaned and organized in long data format for analysis of repeated measures with linear mixed models. Effect size were calculated using partial ethics squares. Initially, data were collected at 3 time points, the first week, 5th week, and 10th week. No statistically significant results were found between the second assessment period and the first and the last assessment period, as further analyses were conducted based on pre- and the post-assessments only. Overall results show that attending the Makers Team programs had significant impact on students' perception of their problem-solving skills. Further comparisons were conducted on groups of students based on their demographic information. Small or medium effects were found on the most of the comparisons over pre and post assessments. So the single asterisk as the low effects, the double asterisk as medium, and triple asterisk represents the high effect sizes. Female students' progress was not statistically significant but had small effects. However, male students' progress was negligible. Another set of grouping for further comparison was made with students' perceptions and feelings about their presence at the design factory in their school. Each variable was divided into 3 levels, low, medium, and high, based on percentiles, 25th and 75th. One common finding about all of the variables was that students in low-level groups had statistically significant improvements on their perceptions of their problem-solving skills, except sense of belonging to school. Few, little, do not confident, and less. These are the low level of each variable. Nevertheless, the effects were medium to large. Uh, so if you look at these asterisk, single, double, and triple asterisks, these are the um, levels of effect sizes. The biggest effect was recorded with students who didn't like uh, being at the design factory. So that's their presence, that their perceptions. They say they didn't like it, but they are the groups who has the greatest advantage of the program. It was followed by the groups of students who thought the teaching at the design factory was less engaging. So this group think that at the beginning of the program they think that the teaching was less engaging. But again, this is the second group that who has the most gain on the program. Another interesting finding was that the students with high level scores in each variable didn't have statistically significant improvement on their perceptions of problem solving, and the effect sizes were negligible. Home educational resources was another demographic information right here. Um, was used to construct groups. The only group students who made statistically significant improvement on their perception of problem-solving skills was the middle group. Students who have some resources. The effect size for the students with few resources was small, even though the difference between the pre and post assessment was not statistically significant. An interesting result was within such students who have many education resources at home that their post-assessment was less than the pre-assessment. In other words, their perception of problem-solving skills were decreased. The change was not statistically significant, however, it has a small effect size. The purpose of the current study was to examine the effectiveness of the 20-hour content delivered in design factories. We found that the students with many home education resources reported less avoidance in problem solving when compared to students with some and few resources. Further analysis showed that students with few and some resources had improvement in their perceptions of their problem solving skills after the 20-hour program. Considering the current project's aims of targeting disadvantaged, non-represented students, we can claim that the program was effective in reaching and impacting that target group. Students with many home education resources, on the other hand, didn't improve. One possible explanation is students might have exposed to similar materials presented in the program. That is, the program might not be novel to them, thus their interest might have been affected. In future programs, differentiations to materials for diverse groups could be considered. Most youngsters have close to social ties and recognition, care, and support of others. As students go a critical time of their lives to discover and reframe their identity, a strong sense of belonging in school will help them feel comfortable and support their academic and social growth. Moderate correlation between sense of belonging to school and the design factor was found. Further investigation found that students with higher sense of belonging to both their schools and the design factory tended to have higher perceptions of problem-solving skills. The 20-hour content had practical impact on students with little sense of belonging to their schools and little and some sense of belonging to the design factory. Similarly, students who didn't like being at the design factory, students who didn't confident in their performance, and students who thought the teaching was not engaging at their perceptions of problem solving after the 20-hour program content improved. This program finding, this important finding presents an evidence for the impact of the program on students. Students who began the program with low on all demographics presented important improvements. One possible reason of no effect for students with high levels of these demographics might be because of the ceiling effect on their scores. There was little to improve on their scores. Overall, the analysis also showed statistically and practically significant impact on program on student perceptions of problem-solving skills. However, current analysis show only a portion of data collected. Further analysis will present more evidence on the effectiveness of the program. To sum up, we have sufficient evidence that to show that impact of the program on students. However, to increase the impact on diverse groups, differentiation of materials should be considered. Thank you for your time.